You remember a girl named Emma Bennett? Bone cancer surgery?
Yes, 11 years old. Metropolitan General, 6 months ago.
She's my daughter. You saved her life. She's alive because of you.
I remember her. I'm so glad she's well. That's incredible.
What began as a routine traffic stop became one of the most emotional moments of Officer Jason Bennett's career when he pulled over a speeding driver only to discover it was the same surgeon who saved his daughter's life just 6 months earlier. What happened next, once he recognized him, was almost unbelievable. Before we dive into how this incredible encounter unfolded, we want to connect with you right now. Viewers from all over the world are tuning in, and we'd love to hear where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if this is your first time on our channel, hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Your support means everything to us and helps us bring more stories like this to light. A 12-year-old boy had been rushed into the hospital after a severe car accident. The only trauma specialist available was Dr. Isaiah Perez. He was stuck in traffic across town when the call came from the hospital that he was urgently needed for an emergency. He had been on medical leave for the past week, finally taking time to rest after months of back-to-back surgeries. His whole body ached for sleep. But the moment he heard the desperation in the ER nurse's voice, he knew there was no choice. A child's life hung in the balance. Isaiah pressed harder on the accelerator. The highway lay ahead, almost empty in the late evening hour. His speedometer climbed past 70, then 80. The speed limit sign read 55, but every second mattered. In trauma cases like this, the difference between life and death could be measured in minutes. He calculated the route in his head. 10 more minutes at this speed, and he would make it. The boy would have a chance. Isaiah had seen cases like this before. Delay meant complications. Complications meant tragedy. Then he saw the flashing red and blue lights in his rearview mirror. His heart sunk. Isaiah immediately slowed down and pulled onto the shoulder, his mind racing through the consequences. The citation would take time. The explanation would take longer. Meanwhile, a child was bleeding out on an operating table, waiting for hands that might arrive too late. Officer Jason Bennett stepped out of his patrol car and approached the vehicle. He had clocked the black sedan going 27 miles over the limit. No hesitation, no gradual acceleration, just raw speed. After 15 years on the force, Bennett had heard every excuse there was, yet the law was still the law. Isaiah rolled down his window as the officer approached. His hospital ID badge still hung around his neck, and his surgical scrubs were visible beneath his jacket. He kept both hands on the wheel, making sure everything was clear and visible. Officer Bennett leaned toward the window, his flashlight scanning the interior of the car. He noticed the medical attire immediately, but kept his expression neutral. He had pulled over doctors before. Everyone had somewhere important to be. Isaiah spoke first, his voice steady but urgent. He explained the situation quickly. A child in critical condition, internal injuries, no other surgeon available, every minute counting. He reached slowly for his hospital identification, showing Bennett his credentials from Metropolitan General. Bennett examined the ID carefully. The name registered somewhere in the back of his mind, but he could not place it. Dr. Isaiah Perez, trauma surgeon. The face looked familiar somehow, though Bennett interacted with hundreds of people every week. He returned to his patrol car to run the license and registration. Standard procedure. The computer screen glowed in the darkness as he typed in the information. No warrants, no violations. A completely clean record. Everything checked out perfectly. But something nagged at him. That name. That face. Bennett stared at the license photo on his screen. Then it hit him like a wave. His breath caught in his chest. 6 months ago. Metropolitan General Hospital, the pediatric oncology wing. His daughter Emma lying in that hospital bed, her small body ravaged by an aggressive form of bone cancer. The surgery had lasted 7 hours. 7 hours of pacing hospital corridors, praying to anyone who would listen, watching other families come and go, while his daughter's fate hung in the balance. The surgeon who emerged afterward, exhausted but smiling, had told him Emma would live. The tumor was gone. She had a future. Bennett sat frozen in his patrol car, staring at the license in his hand. The same calm eyes, the same steady presence. This was the man who had given his daughter a second chance at life. The man who had spent 7 hours meticulously removing a tumor that 3 other surgeons had called inoperable. He remembered every detail of that day, how Dr. Perez had sat down with him and his wife before the surgery, explaining the risks without sugarcoating them, but speaking with a confidence that somehow made them believe. How the doctor had called them personally the night after the operation to check on Emma, even though his shift had ended hours earlier. Emma was 11 now, healthy, laughing, playing soccer again, living the childhood that cancer had tried to steal from her. Bennett looked up at the car ahead of him. The red tail lights glowed the darkness. Inside sat the reason his daughter was still alive. The reason she would graduate high school, go to college, get married someday, all because this man had refused to give up on a little girl when others had, and now that same man was rushing to save another child. Bennett's hands trembled slightly as he stepped out of the patrol car. The citation book felt heavy in his pocket, but he knew he would not be reaching for it. This was not about traffic laws anymore. This was about something bigger than procedure and protocol. He walked back to the sedan, his mind churning through the coincidence of it all. What were the odds? Hundreds of thousands of people lived in this city, thousands of cars on the road every night, and somehow on this particular evening, he had pulled over the one person who deserved his gratitude more than anyone else in the world. Isaiah watched in the side mirror as the officer approached again. He braced himself for the citation, already calculating how much time it would cost him. The boy at the hospital could not afford this delay. Bennett reached the window and stood there for a moment, silent. Isaiah looked up at him, confused by the officer's expression. Something had changed. The professional detachment was gone, replaced by something else entirely. Then Bennett spoke, his voice thick with emotion. He asked Isaiah if he remembered a girl named Emma Bennett, 11 years old, bone cancer surgery, 6 months ago at Metropolitan General. Isaiah's eyes widened in recognition. He remembered the case had been one of the most challenging of his career. The tumor had wrapped itself around critical blood vessels, making extraction incredibly dangerous. But he had studied the scans for hours, mapped out every possible approach, and somehow found a way. He remembered Emma's parents, too. The father who had barely left the waiting room, the mother who had held her daughter's hand, right up until the anesthesia took effect, the overwhelming relief on their faces when he told them the surgery was successful. Bennett's voice cracked as he spoke. He told Isaiah that Emma was his daughter, that she was alive because of him, that she had just started middle school and made the soccer team, that she talked about becoming a doctor herself one day because of the man who saved her life. Tears started to spill down Bennett's face. He was not supposed to cry on duty. He was supposed to maintain composure, stay professional, enforce the law without emotion. But standing there in front of the man who had given him his daughter back, all of that dissolved. Isaiah felt his own throat tighten. He had performed hundreds of surgeries over his career, saved countless lives, but he rarely got to see the long-term impact. Patients recovered and moved on. He moved on to the next case. The cycle continued, but here was living proof that his work mattered beyond the operating room. Bennett wiped his eyes and collected himself. He asked about the emergency at the hospital. Isaiah explained again. A 12-year-old boy, critical injuries. Minutes mattered. The officer nodded slowly, understanding settling over him. Another child, another family facing the unthinkable, and the only person who could help was standing right here, delayed by a traffic stop. Bennett made his decision instantly. He told Isaiah to follow him. No ticket, no citation, no delay. Instead, he was getting a full police escort straight to Metropolitan General Hospital. Isaiah barely had time to process what was happening before Bennett was back in his patrol car, lights flashing, siren wailing. The officer pulled in front of the sedan and accelerated, clearing the path ahead. Traffic parted as they flew down the highway together. Bennett using every tool at his disposal to get Isaiah to that operating room as fast as possible. A trip that should have taken another 10 minutes was done in 4. Bennett radioed ahead to other units, making sure every intersection was clear. Every light turned green. He drove with the same urgency Isaiah had felt, because now he understood what was at stake. Another Emma, another family waiting in agony for someone to save their child. They pulled up to the emergency entrance together. Isaiah jumped out of his car, grabbing his bag from the passenger seat. Before he rushed inside, he turned back to Bennett, who had stepped out of the patrol car. The two men locked eyes for a brief moment. No words were needed. Bennett simply nodded. Isaiah nodded back. Then the surgeon disappeared through the sliding doors, already shifting into the focused mindset he needed for what lay ahead. Bennett stood there for a moment, watching the entrance long after Isaiah had gone. His radio crackled with routine calls, but he ignored them. He thought about the chain of events that had brought them to this moment, the randomness of it, the perfect timing of it. 6 months ago, Isaiah had saved Emma. Tonight, Bennett had helped Isaiah save someone else. The circle was complete. 3 hours later, Bennett received a text message. It was from Isaiah. The surgery was successful. The boy would recover. Another family would not have to bury their child. Another life had been preserved because someone refused to give up. Bennett saved that message. He would show it to Emma someday when she was old enough to fully understand. He would tell her about the night he pulled over her surgeon, about how life sometimes brings people back together in the most unexpected ways, and about how one act of compassion can ripple forward in ways we never anticipate. The body cam footage from that traffic stop eventually made its way online. Millions watched the moment when recognition dawned, when tears fell, when a routine enforcement became something transcendent. People commented from every corner of the world, sharing their own stories of unexpected reunions in second chances. But for Bennett and Isaiah, the viral attention meant little compared to the real impact. 2 children were alive, 2 families were whole, and 2 men who had briefly intersected in the chaos of life had reminded each other why their work mattered. Sometimes justice is not about writing tickets or enforcing rules. Sometimes it is about recognizing the humanity in front of you and choosing compassion over protocol. Do you think Officer Bennett made the right call? What would you have done in his position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.